Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Flop Podcast. We're about to get started, but first, let's check out a track from my old high school band.
All right, welcome back to episode 8 of the Flop Podcast. We have a lot to get over today, but first, it was a holiday weekend, so we want to pay special homage to that. Danny, how was your travel? You were actually over on my side of the coast for a little bit.
I was in Florida to see the family, but actually the most eventful thing to happen to me is, as you know, when I travel, I just only bring a backpack and I fill it to the brink. So much so that it's an extension of my body that I don't feel.
This is true.
I was going to board my plane, and one of the employees, the flight attendants, was trying to go by me the opposite way, so I had to step out of the way, and I turned to the side, and I just whacked a girl in the face with my backpack, and I didn't even realize it. I was like 5 aisles down, and I looked behind me, and I realized what happened. I'm just like, I'm sorry, as I get swept along by the wave.
So you didn't give her an actual apology?
No, I thought about getting up during my flight, but I didn't.
I mean, it's a long flight. I'm sure you had time.
I did.
You just chose not to.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's Danny Spiller for y'all. My Thanksgiving week, it was good. I had to work on Black Friday, but it was not bad up until UVA found yet another way to lose to Virginia Tech, so crushing my dreams yet again for one more year, 15 straight.
Wow.
I was going on air that night. I was actually anchoring, and I had this whole thing about, last time Virginia beat Virginia Tech, I was there in 2003, and I never even got to say that stuff. So, but let's get into DraftKings because I did win this one yet again. I came in 43, 835, beating Danny once again.
Yep, I came in 61, 951. Not very good. I picked all the wrong players yet again.
picked all the wrong ones. Who was your captain this week?
My captain was Mark Ingram. I was like, that'll be a sneaky good pick that not everyone else will do.
Yeah, that's that. And I looked at the guy that won. He picked Calvin Ridley. So again, those sneaky picks pay off in the long run as his captain. I had Alvin Kamara. Maybe I should have had Julio Jones. He had 27 points for me. I had to have my boy Julio down by the block. But alas, not making any money this week. But we didn't get to talk about this game yet because it happened on Monday night. We kind of previewed it last week, but Chiefs-Rams last week, epic game. I'm sure a lot of you watched it. Danny, kind of what were your takes on this game?
I mean, obviously this was a super exciting game. It was the third highest scoring game we've ever had. It was similar to the Patriots versus Kansas City, where every time the team got the ball, you knew they were going to score, and whoever got the ball last was going to win. But it was an exciting game to watch. I mean, Andy Reid just cannot win the close game, and that's how it goes.
Yeah, no, it was a good game. I thought it was, there's a lot of points, and it was crazy because, a lot of people don't like all the points now, but, I mean, this is what we've been asking for years, is more points, more scoring, and it was actually a good football team, and I don't think the opposing defense has, really played that poorly. I think they were actually, pretty good. I mean, they made some plays. Some of the points came off defense, so it was good stuff. Andy Reid, that begs the question. I mean, who would win in a fight between Andy Reid and Jared Goff?
Yeah, Andy Reid had some choice words for Jared Goff during the game. Never seen demure Andy Reid act like that before.
Yeah, he's usually cool, calm, and collected over there. But I would go with the Kool-Aid Man himself in that one.
All he would have to do is sit on him, and it's over.
No, Well, you said it. I did not. So, Andy Reid, I'll give you his phone number if you want it. All right, moving on. Browns. This is this week in the NFL. Browns. They got a win on the road. Finally, it's taken forever for this to happen. But this was a crazy game in many regards. Besides the Browns winning a game on the road, Hugh Jackson was on the other sideline as the Browns beat the Bengals. Hugh Jackson, as soon as he got fired from the Browns, took up a job with the Bengals, being an assistant for Marvin Lewis there. And I'm sure you saw it, but he got the game ball today.
He did get the game ball, which is crazy, and shots were being fired at him left and right. Baker Mayfield went off saying he really didn't like that Hugh Jackson got fired and immediately took another job with a different team. They had an awkward handshake at the end of the game. It was pretty icy all around.
Yeah, what do you make of Baker's comments? Because he says he didn't like that he took the job because it's a team that they play, twice a year. But, dude, I wanted to tell Baker, he got fired. The dude needs to take whatever job he can get because I don't know how many other people are out there trying to get Hugh Jackson right now. And so if the Bengals want Hugh Jackson, they got to get him. So I don't get Baker's beef with that.
That's true, but having said that, Browns, they got the win. It was their first road win, and get this, 1,141 days. And Baker Mayfield wanted to talk a little trash to his old head coach. It may not have been the cleverest trash talk, but hey, the dude's got to rep the Cleveland aura.
Well, and some other interesting stuff coming out of this game was Hugh Jackson might be in line to replace Marvin Lewis after the season's over. And we said it after Hugh Jackson got fired, but we said, Hugh Jackson's not getting another NFL coaching job in this league. What in the world? How does this happen?
If any team was going to give it to him, but look, this is not going to happen because Marvin Lewis must have some incriminating evidence against Cincinnati ownership.
That's so true.
Marvin Lewis has a record of 130 and 116, and he's 0-7 in the playoffs. So he's a 500 coach who's 0-7 in the playoffs. They'd be right to fire him, but the dude's not going to lose his job until he retires.
Yeah, somehow Marvin Lewis continues to keep his job with no playoff success and a bunch of empty seasons on his belt. But if Marvin Lewis decides to retire after the season, maybe, or whatever it may be, and Hugh Jackson does get the job, that's just going to show even more about this Bengals franchise that I already thought was bad because they kept Marvin Lewis this long. So it's going to be interesting to see where this one develops.
At least Hugh Jackson would know that he'd have a job for life. They don't fire people in Cincinnati.
Yeah, they don't. Hugh Jackson would be the coach there for the next 10, 12 years. And speaking of drama, we've got some more drama out of Philadelphia with now Markelle Fultz might not be in the team's future anymore. And, pretty much they are ready to move on from Markelle Fultz. What do you think about all this after everything that they've been through? The trade to get him, the shoulder concerns, the shooting concerns, all the drama, and now they're ready to just cut bait.
Yeah, it's crazy on so many levels. I'm not going to say anything that anyone doesn't know already, but the trade was just such a clear failure for them, and it was really one of the first big moves they made after Sam Hinkie left. And for that to be one of the first big moves where it's we're going for it all, and then for it to be such a complete disaster is really damning of the previous GM, who I'm blanking on his name because of all his Twitter pseudonames.
Brian Colangelo, yeah.
Yes.
No, this is you're exactly right because this trade not only didn't end up working out for them. This also set them back a lot of years, and it might completely waste everything that Sam Hinkie did, which is really, really bad. If you think about it, Sam Hinkie got them, one of the best centers in the NBA right now, Joel Embiid, an up-and-coming superstar in Ben Simmons, and all this draft capital. And basically, in one offseason, Philadelphia, or one or two off seasons, Philadelphia was able to just completely abandon everything that Sam Hinkie did, get rid of all of it, and now look where they are. I think right now they're probably the fourth best team in the Eastern Conference. I mean, they got Jimmy Butler now, but I mean, it just seems like, the 76ers franchise, they waited so long to put all these pieces together, and I still don't understand the Sam Hinkie firing in my mind, and I think that's really what's going to do this franchise in. The curse of Sam Hinkie, you might want to call it.
Yeah, and for 1 second, can we talk about just how weird this entire scenario has been with Markelle Fultz?
And that's the other thing is when the 76ers made this trade, it looked like a great trade. This Markelle Fultz looked like the missing piece for what the 76ers needed to compete for an NBA championship in the future. Was a guy that can create his own shot, a guy that can shoot well from beyond the arc. And Markelle Fultz looked exactly like that player coming out. There were no concerns about him. He was the de facto number one guy in the draft. There was no doubt about that. And then all this happens. There's no indication that any of this would happen. Down the line, I absolutely need a 30 for 30 on Markelle Fultz. I think that is something that needs to happen. I need to see it. I maybe I have to wait 10 years from now, but I need to know what happened with Markelle Fultz. I need to know it.
Yeah, and then they came out saying him and his team that he has a right shoulder injury that has adversely affected his ability to shoot, which is just also funny because it's like every time an injury comes out, it's like an excuse for why he's not shooting well. I don't know. It just is so strange and it's so weird. And I've never seen anything like it.
And it's crazy that they're going to try and trade him now when it's too late. No one wants to touch that. He's damaged goods. I hope that he can get out of there and find a better situation for himself to grow as a player, but it's not looking good for Markelle Fultz's future or the 76ers future for that matter. All right, time to get into the NFL quick hits. We talked about it last week. Alex Smith's injury, it was just brutal. It was brutal to watch, brutal to see. And so now the Redskins, they had to bring in some new quarterback this week. No, it is not the Flop Podcast golden boy, Tim Tebow. No, it is not Nike spokesman Colin Kaepernick. It is Mr. Butt Fumble himself, Mark Sanchez, that gets the call up. What do you think of this move by the Redskins?
I almost forgot about the butt fumble until you just brought it up right now.
Never forget. Never forget.
When you just say Mark Sanchez, you're like, all right, I guess that's fine. But when you put it in the context of butt fumble Mark Sanchez, I don't even know. What's this guy been doing for all the? Did he even play last year? Has he just been hanging out?
There's no telling. There's no telling what he's been doing. I know he ended up on. I can't remember. I think he was on the Broncos for a little bit. But there's no telling what he's been up to for the past couple of years, just growing out the mustache maybe, I don't know. But yeah, interesting choice there to go with Mark Sanchez. Never forget the butt fumble, Danny. Never forget it. The Colts, Indianapolis Colts, I believe they were my pick for making the playoffs as a team that was last in the division.
Yeah, well, my pick was the Oakland Raiders. So
yeah, and I think I won that one. So the Colts have climbed all the way back into the playoff picture. They're actually tied right now with the Baltimore Ravens for the 6th seed, and Baltimore wins that based off of the best win percentage in the conference. And they're 6-3, and Indianapolis is 5-4. But what do you make of Indianapolis just kind of climbing their way back into this? Andrew Luck looks like the Andrew Luck of old now. He looks like an MVP caliber player. I keep voting for him for the Pro Bowl, so hopefully he makes it there. What do you think about the Colts climbing back into this?
Well, I don't want to take anything away from them because Andrew Luck's to me looks like he's carrying this team in a lot of ways. He's gutting through the
Absolutely.
games and he's making it happen and getting them the wins. But if I do look at their last 5 wins, they're against the Bills, the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Titans, and the Dolphins. Not saying they're the worst teams in the league, but they're pretty close. They're not great. But if I look at their upcoming schedule, it's not that tough. I could see
No.
them winning, most of the upcoming games, 4 out of 5, and getting that one of those wild card spots. So, I mean, props to them. Props to Andrew Luck.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think I do think they're going to make it in to the playoffs. Right now, I look at the other teams that are floating around there right now: the Titans, the Dolphins, the Bengals, the Broncos. Not really feeling it with those teams. They're tied with the Ravens right now. I'm interested to see how Lamar Jackson works out with the Ravens, but I think they could definitely sneak into the playoffs. They could even still win their division because the Texans are not that far ahead of them. Um, and so I like the Colts' chances down the stretch. It'll be interesting to see where they end up. Looking at the rest of the playoff standings right now, you got the Chiefs at number one, then the Patriots, then the Texans, Steelers, Chargers, Ravens. Any surprises there for you?
Uh, the Texans are a surprise for me.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't know they had, I guess, that many tiebreakers to get up to the three. I thought they would. I mean, it doesn't sound like that. It's not that impressive, but I am surprised. I am a little surprised because Deshaun Watson has not looked great this year, but they continue to win. So obviously, the Steelers, we expect them to be better. A loss to the Broncos is not the way to kind of up yourself in the playoff hunt, but you know, it's not bad. It's not bad right now in the AFC. Looking at the NFC, we got the Saints, Rams, the Bears, all the way down there at four is the Cowboys, then the Vikings and the Redskins.
yeah, I mean the Bears are a huge surprise. Mitchell Trubisky playing, I mean, not that great, but surprisingly well nonetheless. And the defense was led by Khalil Mack, really carrying the team through. They're playing excellent at home, 5-1. I mean, most people I think expected the Packers, the Vikings, and even the Lions to all be pretty good, and one of those three to be leading the division. But nope, we have the Bears handily ahead.
That Khalil Mack trade is just going to look like one of the biggest steals in NFL history, unless the Raiders pick like the next Khalil Mack with their draft pick that they got from the Bears, which I highly doubt. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Bears won without Mitchell Trubisky on Thanksgiving, so that's really good for them as a team. And obviously the Saints and the Rams are the class of the NFC right now, class of the NFL, really, both of them. Um, Cowboys surprising. We thought they were done. They aren't going to make the playoffs, and now they've climbed back up to lead that division. It doesn't say much because that division is just awful this year. With
Straight garbage.
Straight garbage. Eagles are terrible. Giants are bad or terrible, and the Redskins, now without Alex Smith, don't have a lot of hope in them. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But we wanted to do a little bit of the NFL awards race now. And Danny, we'll go MVP first. We both agree on the MVP, I think.
We do. I have Drew Brees as my MVP, also my Offensive Player of the Year. I think the team's won 10 in a row. I think they're definitely, I don't think anyone expected them to be bad, but to be vying for the number one seed in the NFC, really impressive. And it's also that, to me, if you take in the classic, if you take this player off that team, are they still good? If you take Drew Brees off that team, there's no way they're as good as they are now. So he's the
No,
MVP in my book at this point.
absolutely agree with you, but I do not agree on the Offensive Player of the Year because I think, and when I think Offensive Player of the Year, I think most exciting, biggest numbers, and that's got to be Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the guy came out of nowhere this year to lead the Chiefs to being the best team in the AFC at this point. and he's just putting up incredible numbers. Plus, I found out the other week that the dude likes ketchup on his mac and cheese, and I got mad props for that. Like, dude, that's awesome because I
That's
do too.
disgusting. That rules him
Everyone
out.
else, everyone else hates on me for it. I love it, Mahomes, because you're my home. Uh,
Why don't you have Saquon Barkley? I thought he was the best running back you've ever seen in your life.
Best running back I've ever seen in my life. Coach of the year. Who do you
Moving
have?
on from that one.
Yeah.
For coach of the year, I have Sean Payton. I think it's a
No.
pretty. I think it's a three-way coach of the year between Saints, Chiefs, the Rams. You can pick whatever coach you want.
I thought it's hashtag never Andy Reid.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would never pick Andy Reid because he's the worst. You have to coach for 4 quarters, not 3.
Hey, you know what? I'll pick Andy Reid because the job that he's done with this Chiefs team this year, no one really expected too much out of the Chiefs this year. Like, they just traded away their quarterback, Alex Smith. They're bringing along this new young guy in Patrick Mahomes. Not a lot of people knew about him, and they've turned into an offensive juggernaut. The defense actually isn't even that bad. Like, they've got some good players on the defense, so I really like what he's done with this Chiefs team. They're kind of the Cinderella story of the year, if you will, just kind of team that came out of nowhere and is just dominated out there. I got to go Andy Reid.
Yeah, I teach their own. You can have him.
To each their own. Comeback player of the year. I just changed my answer, but I'll let you go first.
Sure, I have J.J. Watt. I mean, what do you want me to say? He's got 10 sacks, 36 tackles, 4 forced fumbles, and he's also coming back this year.
Yeah, he's coming back this year, that's for sure. I like J.J. Watt. He was my pick until a couple seconds ago because thinking about Andrew Luck's season and thinking about where he was last year when they didn't even know if he'd be able to throw a football again. That's how bad it got for Andrew Luck. And he's come all the way back to looking like, in any other year when Drew Brees and Todd Gurley and Patrick Mahomes weren't lighting up the league, he's putting up MVP-like numbers. And he's doing all that after it was considered that maybe he never plays again. And so that's a huge comeback in my mind for Andrew Luck. It's very similar to like Adrian Peterson coming back from that knee injury and then tearing up the league the next year. Speaking of a guy tearing up the league, I think we have a unanimous defensive player of the year.
Yeah, I have Khalil Mack. I think the most impressive part is not even necessarily his stats, but just the impact he's had on turning around that defense that was not a great defense last year, and this year's completely carrying the team to an 8-3 record.
Oh, he's a one-man wrecking ball. Like, he's playing at such an elite level. I don't want to bring up the comparison because I know a lot of people of the old days would get upset, but he's playing like a Lawrence Taylor type defensive player right now, where he is a one-man wrecking crew that can just ruin an entire offensive game plan for teams. I mean, I'll take you back to that first game of the season against the Packers, where he almost single-handedly took out Aaron Rodgers and also scored the points for the team as well. Like, he has been incredible this season. A definite defensive player of the year for sure. All right, coming up next, we will go over some of the big NBA storylines. We got some trade talk. We've got some more Celtics turmoil, which I love. So that is coming up next. All right, welcome back to the Flop Podcast. We are now into our NBA storylines, part of my favorite part of the show. We're going to do some trade talk first. Obviously, the big trade rumor of the week was the Washington Wizards finally, after all these years, after everyone told them you can't have John Wall and Bradley Beal work together in the backcourt, the Wizards finally figured it out themselves. They're open to trading John Wall and Bradley Beal. Also, Otto Porter mentioned there too. But Danny, which one of these three do you think is the most tradable?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be Bradley Beal. His game, I mean, he's a shooting guard, which is, I think, a position that is not the most popular and stacked across the league. And his game fits really well in today's NBA. I think better than John Wall, who still is not a great shooter in general. Also, it seems like John Wall has more of the temperament issues than Bradley Beal, from at least from what we see.
Yeah, but it's that reason that, I agree Bradley Beal for sure is the most tradable and he's going to get the biggest return for the Wizards. But wouldn't you, if you're the Wizards, wouldn't you want to build around Bradley Beal, give him a chance to be the star there, and get rid of John Wall? The thing for me, though, and we've talked about this before, that I don't think John Wall is all that tradable. I think even for teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Orlando Magic, who have 0 point guards on their roster pretty much, 0 NBA level point guards on their roster, I just don't think anyone's really going to bite on a John Wall trade. And if they do, like, the Wizards might have to be the ones giving up stuff to get rid of John Wall.
Yeah, especially with that contract.
Yeah, with the contract, exactly. And same thing for Otto Porter. Like, I think he fits in well with today's NBA as kind of a 3-and-D player, but that contract is outrageous. And so I don't see Otto Porter really getting a good move too. So if they're trying to get the biggest return, it's got to be Bradley Beal. If they're just trying to start over and hang on to one of the guys, you got to keep Bradley Beal. So interesting conundrum there for them. Another shooting guard on the trade block, J.R. Smith.
Can you really call him a shooting or a guard anymore?
You can't call him much anymore. He's really not a whole lot in the NBA. But basically, Cleveland trying to go young now, and so J.R. Smith is not young, and he's not a good veteran to have in the locker room either. So he is on the trading block. Who takes a shot on this guy? Like, who wants J.R. Smith?
I think that the soup thrower is just, at best, you get a second round pick for him, but I would guess...
I think you got to give up a second round pick to get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, at best, I imagine he just gets cut and someone picks him up on the waivers.
That's what I'm thinking too. I think he gets cut unless they find some kind of like a salary dump deal. Yeah, but not a lot of teams are going to want J.R. Smith because, I mean, like, his appeal a couple years ago when when the Cavs were actually competing with the Warriors in the finals, not after Kevin Durant got there. Before that, his appeal was he was a streaky shooter, but he could knock down a lot of shots. He was able to create his own shot sometimes, and he played defense well. He stopped doing that a couple years ago, and so he doesn't have any appeal anymore.
Yeah, it's funny that they're even trying to trade him. Like,
I would cut bait and just go ahead and just cut him. But speaking of a team that is just not working together so far, your Boston Celtics, Danny. You said it best here. After 20 games, the Celtics are as mediocre as ever. Tell me what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, as Bill Simmons says, they're going to be a really dangerous 8 seed this year.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Bucks or the Raptors, I don't want to play the Celtics in the first round, but or maybe I do.
Yeah, they don't look great right now. If you want my honest opinion, I personally put the blame on Brad Stevens. I think he has a history.
Best coach in the NBA, Brad Stevens?
Still the best coach, but I think he has a history of maximizing minimal talent, and that's what he's done pretty much his whole career, and that's what's made him into what's considered to be a really great coach. But now he's given a lot of really good talent, and I'm not sure that he quite knows how to motivate or handle all of that at one time. I still think they're going to figure it out and be fine, but I put the blame mostly on him. The players aren't actually playing poorly, to be honest.
I mean, they aren't playing great, Danny.
But it's individually they're playing fine. It's as a unit they're not. If you're not playing well as a unit, that's usually a coaching problem.
Was the whole thing with this Celtics team is they have a bunch of great individual players. Can they play as a team? And so far they can't. And I don't know if that is a coaching problem or if it's a personnel problem. or an ego problem, because you got to think about some of these guys. Like Kyrie has a pretty big ego.
What are you
Um,
talking about?
yeah, what am I talking about, Mr. Flat Earth over there? We'll talk about him a little bit more in a second, but yeah, Jaylen Brown certainly has a big ego. I know he's your favorite guy in the NBA. But I mean, all these guys have egos, and they should be, because they're very good players. But it takes good teams to kind of, and good players, and good chemistry. It takes to drop that ego at the door and play team basketball. That if the Celtics want to make this work, they got to play like the San Antonio Spurs. They got to play like a Tim Duncan, who never had a big ego about himself, or a Tony Parker, or a Manu Ginobili, all those guys. If they want to make this work, they got to find a way to play with each other and stop worrying about, am I going to get this many shots, or should I be ISOing on this play? Like, play within Brad Stevens' offensive system, because I still think he's a great coach and he's going to figure this out.
Yes. I hope you're right.
Yeah, you brought up an interesting point at the end, because a lot of Celtics fans, like yourself, I'm sure, are waiting for the big Anthony Davis trade. And you brought this point up to me earlier. That actually isn't even possible until next summer, because of Kyrie Irving signed on the Rose deal, and Anthony Davis also signed on the Rose deal. A team cannot have two players signed on those types of deals until cannot have, or they just can't have two players signed on those types of deals, and they wouldn't be able to trade for Anthony Davis until next summer, when both of those players signed extensions or sign and trade or something like that. And unless you trade Kyrie for Anthony Davis. So would you trade Kyrie for Anthony Davis?
No.
Anthony Davis is a top
I just
three
think
player.
the Celtics have so many pieces that, unless you have no other choice, you trade any of the other pieces before Kyrie.
All right, well, let's say we get to next summer and, they both, sign their deals, and you can have Kyrie and Anthony Davis on the same team. Who would you trade for Anthony Davis?
Pretty much anyone other than Kyrie, and probably Tatum. Not trading.
I was going to say, you're going to give up Tatum?
But they can have Hayward, Horford, and Brown, and Rozier, and we'll take AD.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they want. I think you'd have to give up Tatum, but not sure there. Speaking of the Celtics, lost on a dagger from one of my favorite players in college and now in the NBA, Kemba Walker. What do you think about Walker? Obviously, he's going to be a free agent this coming summer. Is he a guy that gets a big contract?
Yeah, I mean, he's having one of his best years, and I was looking up some of his stats. Right now, this year, he's top 10 in PER, above guys like James Harden, Joel Embiid, Damian Lillard, right up there with guys like Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis. He's top 5 in points per game. He's having his personal best year in pretty much every statistical category. I think he's a guy that people should want, and I think he's worth a max if he can play like this for 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is getting a little older right now, but I think he's an MVP
As
candidate.
We speak.
He's an MVP candidate right now. He's 28 years old. There you have it. He is. So if you sign a max contract, he's going to be 32, 33 when he finishes that max contract. So that's something you always have to think about with these things. But absolutely, I mean, the Charlotte Hornets are in the quote unquote playoff race in the Eastern Conference, basically just because Kemba Walker is keeping them alive. You look at the rest of that roster, and it is not good. So I think he's definitely in the MVP consideration. But I mean, at the end of the day, Giannis or LeBron or anyone else, Kawhi, they're going to be the guys that are really going to win the MVP. But it's good to recognize Kemba Walker. I hope he's a starter for the All-Star game, because that would kind of give him some of that respect. Speaking of LeBron, he was talking Lonzo Ball, saying he's starting to realize how great he is. That's Lonzo realizing that about himself. What do you think's in store for Lonzo?
Well, I'll say it, and many people have said it, but LeBron does not say things like this, uncalculated.
No.
And if I had to guess, he's saying this because he wants Lonzo around long term, and this is his way of telling Magic that he can't trade Lonzo Ball for a veteran player.
Yeah.
And he must like Lonzo, and he wants to put a little pressure on him to get even better this year. So I would guess there's a good relationship in store.
Absolutely, I agree with all that. I think LeBron and Lonzo do have a good relationship, and the other thing I think is just watching Lakers games this year. It seems like Lonzo is gaining more confidence. He's shooting the three well this year. He's gaining more confidence as a driver, as a passer, as a playmaker in the team, and really he's one of the best defenders on the team on the perimeter. So he's stepping up. I do think he has a good future, and it's good to hear LeBron say that too. Especially because a lot of people are like, "Oh, trade Lonzo. He's not going to fit with LeBron at first." I think he's the perfect point guard to play next to LeBron. We'll skip over to Golden State, 4-game losing streak. We've talked about the inner strife on this team. They got to win, so it's coming back. You think you also got to account for the injuries here. Steph Curry, Draymond Green missing a lot of time. So
Yeah.
is this just kind of a brief, moment of not greatness for them?
Well, this is kind of the first chip in the armor we've seen in a while, where they're not playing well, and it's not because they don't care. They're not playing well. They're not winning because of either inner strife or because they just can't do it. The most interesting thing to me will be: are they going to make it to the finals this year? Are they going to win? You look at the roster and you're like, how could they not make it? They have so much talent, but maybe this is the year where inner conflict gets the best of them and they lose in the conference finals, or they lose in the NBA finals.
Yeah, I think if we're really going to see this, it might be like somewhere late in the playoffs where, just something comes up mentally for them. And yeah, you're right. This is the chink in the armor for them. And I'm just hoping and hoping that this pushes Kevin Durant further out the door and down the coast to your neck of the woods in LA. Pop, the man himself, Greg Popovich, putting on blast Kawhi yet again. It seems like this is, just a weekly occurrence that, Greg Popovich is not a Kawhi fan. Saying he's not a leader, though, in the context of calling Patty Mills a great leader, I don't really disagree with this. I don't think Kawhi is really one of those guys that's a leader on and off the court.
No, it's one of those where it's not surprising to hear, but at the same time, you're still kind of you see the headline and you're like, I want to read more about that.
Yeah.
I always love hearing when Pop is gonna diss someone or talks how he really feels about a former player. So not surprising and probably true, but definitely interesting.
Real talk with Pop. All right, let's get down to our question of the week for the NBA. What NBA players would you trust to catch you in a trust fall? This is important. You don't want anyone to let you fall. Number one for you, Danny.
First, I have Kevin Love. He seems pretty snuggly, safe teddy bear. I think he'd catch me.
Yeah, I agree with that. I got LeBron number one just because I want LeBron to catch me. Yeah, pretty much it.
Selfish. My number two is Manu Ginobili. Yeah, he might technically be retired, but that's even better. I think he'd be a good guy to catch me in his arms. I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure. I got Steph just because Steph is one of those guys you could just trust in the NBA. I can't stand him on the court sometimes just because he's usually beating my team, but he's one of those guys. He's just, you can trust him.
Even if you were gonna knock him over to the floor, he would still try and catch you. He's just a good dude.
Yeah.
I have LeBron James as number three because I don't. I got LBJ because I don't think he could. He could stand there and not try to catch me, and he could just put a pinky out, and I'd be fine. He's gigantic. I'd be good to go.
Absolutely. All right, I'll do my next two, and then you can finish up with your fourth. I've got Giannis Antetokounmpo, 4 games losing streak. We've talked about the inner strife on this team. He's gaining more confidence. He's gaining more confidence. as my third, just because think about it, you could fall any which direction, and those long arms will just stretch over and catch you. So
You fall forward,
yeah,
and his
you fall
arms somehow
forward, and he
stretch around.
still catches you like Space Jam, Michael Jordan style, like just stretches the arms and it catches you and brings you back. And then my last one is Ben Simmons. Just he seems like a nice guy, you know. He just seems like a nice guy. He's not gonna let you fall.
Yeah.
Also, big
Yeah,
body,
he's a nice
long
guy.
arms, doesn't hurt.
Yeah. So my last one is a recommendation on who you should not let catch you. Unsurprisingly, it is yet again Jimmy Butler. And I say this because there's a video of Jimmy Butler doing the trust fall with someone where someone's supposed to fall into his arms. As the guy is falling, he steps away and lets the person fall to the floor. Thanks, Jimmy Butler.
I think Jimmy Butler would have been like one of the last people I would have wanted, along with like Russell Westbrook. And now,
Yeah.
and now this video just makes Russell Westbrook go up one, and Jimmy Butler is now last in the NBA.
Yep.
But that concludes the NBA portion of this show. We are coming back with, of course, the Tim Tebow update of the week, as well as finishing out the rest of the show. So stay tuned for that.
Alrighty, guys. Thanks for waiting through that sour Saison New Belgium sponsorship. First up, we have the Tim Tebow update.
We need
Tim
to get some
Tebow
music to accompany this.
Yeah, one day in the near future.
One day, yeah. Go ahead.
Tim Tebow kinda got roasted on live TV because Georgia beat Florida. You want to comment on this?
I love it. I'm a big fan of Kirby Smart in Georgia, just having lived down there. And so I like this. I mean, Tim Tebow just got completely roasted. Yeah. Hadn't put the Georgia jersey on after Georgia beat Florida. So yeah, all about this life. Tim Tebow didn't get signed by the Redskins this week, and he got the Georgia Bulldogs jersey instead.
Yep, and now he's an atheist, so what do you know?
What do you know?
All right, next up, we have the Elon Phoenix. We're in the first round of the FCS playoffs, and of course, they lost to the Terriers.
You know, ever since we decided to do this block right after they upset JMU, they have like pretty much just let us down ever since then. In every sport,
it's been pretty disappointing. But you know who hasn't let me down? The very own Skylar Davis.
The kicker.
He went 0 for 0 on field goal attempts and 1 for 1 on extra points, which in my book equals 100%.
Can't miss, never lost. All right, Rex of the week. I had one, but I forgot it, so I guess I really don't want to recommend it because it wasn't that good.
It's an
so
anti-rec.
Anti-rec for whatever it was. Danny, what do you have?
My recommendation is the Bill Simmons podcast with none other than Conan O'Brien. It's a great listen, really good history.
You know I'm a huge Conan O'Brien fan, so I will definitely be listening to this. Two Boston guys there, so of course you listen to it. Also two just two good guys, Yeah.
Two good dudes.
Two good dudes.
Just two crazy and wild guys.
Two crazy and wild guys. SNL reference there. Conan wrote on SNL. So there you go. Yeah. I connected it. Instagram update, Danny, what do you got?
So the only thing I had was Kyrie working out because there's just this video of him doing this crazy workout where he's like standing on 2 basketballs and dribbling 2 basketballs, which is kind of hard.
I do have a question. Is he standing on a flat Earth or is the Earth round?
In this scenario, it's a flat Earth.
Okay, all right, thought so. The only thing I have, I don't have it on there right now, Danny. So this is a surprise, but I don't know if you saw Tyler Lockett of the Seahawks catch a touchdown earlier, but he after the touchdown, he did the Allen Iverson step over on when he stepped over Ty Lue in the NBA Finals all those years ago. It
Yep.
is hilarious. It's amazing. Definitely recommend watching that one. Probably my favorite touchdown celebration of the year. Or for all you Office fans, another player. I'm trying to remember who it was off the top of my head. It was Trey Quinn, I believe, of the Washington Redskins, who did the Scarn. And if you don't know what the Scarn is, that is from the show The Office, Threat Level Midnight. It is Trey Quinn. Just wanted to make sure it is Trey Quinn. So another good one. He got a shout out from Steve Carell himself in the show on Twitter.
Wow.
All right, weekly sign off time, 60-second story coming your way. Danny, who do you got this week?
Well, I think we should do something with I don't know, maybe J.R. Smith, John Wall, and Markelle Fultz are trade targets of the week.
Ooh, interesting. All right, I can start us off if you got the timer.
And the timer's rolling.
All right. J.R. Smith, Markelle Fultz, and John Wall walk into a bar.
J.R. Smith orders a bowl of creamy onion soup.
Markelle Fultz tries to slide the bowl over to J.R. Smith, but ends up pump faking the slide and slides it off the table, breaking the bowl.
John Wall says, F you to Markelle Fultz.
Markelle Fultz is then listed on the injury report as having a sprained ego and is out for the rest of the season.
And in conclusion here, J.R. Smith throws his bowl of creamy onion soup at Markelle Fultz, who is then listed on the IR for the rest of his life.
Yeah, the rest of his life. He will never end. He will never be off the IR. All right, that is all the time that we have for this week. Thanks for bearing with us through another The Flop Sports podcast. That is episode 8. We will be back next week with yet another episode. Danny, say goodbye to the nice people.
Goodbye, nice people.